Hello there, YouTube. This is Sybil's Bits, back at it again with another sit-down Saturday. Unfortunately, this video is coming out on Sunday just because of how everything ended up turning out with the original idea. Originally, we were going to cover Blessing of Quills, the trinket, but I just, due to how busy the work week has been with the new promotion and all of that, I have not been able to gather enough run data to where I still feel like I have a good definitive idea of how the trinket works, but just not enough data to just show you guys enough and have say a good data collection. And then of course I don't even have this. I have the spreadsheet, but it's not formulated at all. Anyways, that's getting a little bit off topic. Sit Down Saturdays is a series that we do generally every Saturday that is going in depth on game mechanics, generally on Inkbound. Most of these ideas I'm coming up with myself, but if you guys have anything that you want me to cover, be sure to put that down in the comments below of any video, and I will add it to a list of things to start generating thoughts and data on. So today we're going to talk about a run mod that is, I don't know if it's in the game generally or if it's up towards the upper tiers because I've just only played towards the upper tiers, but it's called Tourist Trap, and it was added in Season 2, and I've seen a lot of discourse, or maybe discourse isn't the proper term because that generally entails that people are arguing with each other. It's mostly just people vocalizing that they think that this, due to lack of a better term, is a trap. It's too impactful on just a general gameplay, and it needs to give you more money. Now, as always, like with people being against Wit Thief, I'm all about that. Like, if you want to buff things that I think that are perfectly fine in the game, by all means. We did a video probably God, it would have been 3 months ago, 2 months ago, on Wit Thief and why we didn't think that that was that big of a deal. And I don't think that Tourist Trap is a big deal either. And since a lot of people in the Discord community and even the playtester community are vocalizing that they think that this thing is terrible because it takes your quillings, I'm here to just sort of analyze exactly how much of your quillings it's taking, and then analyzing when is it good, when is it bad, and some other things that are notable about it. So the first thing to note about Tourist Trap is that it only occurs when you are entering Carver nodes. The main concern point is that the game does force you into Carvers at the end of Book 1 and at the end of Book 3 before a Guardian and Villain respectively. So you can't avoid this deficit at all. And it's important to note that the Book 3 Carver is at the end of the run. So most things that care about how much quillings you have, besides maybe one of the victory board pins, but Mumsy's, Miser's Purse, all of those things only care about how much money you have at the start of the combat. So any quilling gain that you're going to lose during the villain fight doesn't actually matter. So we're really only caring about the Carver at the end of Book 1. So if we hit the Carver at the end of Book 1 because we're forced there, that means that the Book 2 Guardian is going to give us less quillings. Book 2 Guardian doesn't honestly give us a lot of quillings, and I think this might be part of the misconception that leads to people thinking that this is taking a lot of their quillings, is a Book 1 Guardian is worth, basically both Book Guardians are equal to the Book 1 quilling cage. Why it's like that, I don't know. They give you at least 40 up to 50 income. So you're only going to lose 10 to 12 quillings from that. The Book 2 Money Pot is a very notable source of income. It will give you anywhere between 256 and 320 quillings. Suppose I should help you guys follow along here. That is probably where a majority of your quillings are going to come from. And then, of course, you have the Book 2 Guardian below. Again, doesn't really give you that much. So we have our total affected quillings. You're going to have a minimum of 336 quillings or a maximum of 420 quillings. And the average therein would be 378. So you're going to lose somewhere around 95 quillings, or at most 105 quillings, which is more than half of what you're getting out of Tourist Trap. However, this is not assuming your Book 2 run mod. Majority of the reason why I didn't add that in there is A, there's all sorts of book mods. It depends on what your opinion of book mods are. Some book mods are being offered to you for glyphs. This could be your Book 2 run mod, in which case this Book 2 Guardian would not be included into that total, which would save you about like 10 to 12 quillings, like I say down here. But the cheapest book mod that I'm aware of that gives you quillings is 75, and the most expensive is 350, which is Wit Thief. I have a mode down here, not an average, because of the fact that because you have like Wit Thief all the way up at 350, but most of them are like between 175 and 125, 100, somewhere around there. I just decided to take like 175, but you could theoretically say that this is 150, etc., etc. And so then, of course, we took 25% off of each of those, and you lose a little bit more quillings. It's also important to note that it's very hard for us to factor in destructibles. We know how destructibles work. It's just hard for me to tell you how many destructibles are actually spawning in books 2 and 3. Book 3, you'll maybe see 1, sometimes you'll see 2. So it's very hard to add that into there. Book 2, depending on the book and depending on which nodes you go through, you could see anywhere between, I would say, a minimum of 3 and a maximum of maybe 10 if you're going through Garden's Edge. It's really a toss-up on that one. But a way that you can think about it in your brain is every individual quilling drop, which is 1 to 3 per breakable, is going to have their quillings reduced by 1, assuming you have 1 buff. Because they normally give you 4 to 5, and then of course you bring that down by 25%, it's going to be 3 to 4. So with that said, our overall analysis is that I would say that the book costs you somewhere between 120 and 175 quillings. I probably shouldn't say cost, but if this is being offered to you as glyphs, obviously you're not getting paid to take it, and so it will cost you somewhere around 120 and 175 quillings. That is, of course, assuming that towards the top end, you are not taking Wit Thief, because Wit Thief is another mod out there that everybody says should be removed from the game. It should pay you more. It's absolutely untakeable. So I don't think that anybody besides me would possibly take Tourist Trap and Wit Thief in the same run. But if you do, you're going to lose some money. But Wit Thief generally covers that anyways. It's just that this won't be paying you at that point. Anyways, I'm generally regarding that you are going to have an average amount of payout in your income, and you're going to take somewhere around a 175 book mod. So you're going to end up somewhere around 150. And then, of course, I took the minimum and a little bit of the maximum and factored that into there. Sprinkled in some destructibles in there. Maybe you'll have a better idea of how much you're getting from destructibles than I will. I generally budget towards the lower end because that's how you do a budget, is you assume you're going to get as little as possible. Now, if this was grabbed as your Book 2 mod, it's slightly better. Again, only because you save the 10 to 12 quillings that other people are going to have to spend when they beat the Book 1 Guardian. It's also much better if your Book 2 mod offers glyphs instead, because then you don't get penalized for that. I say better, not best here, because you're still getting the income from your Book 2 mod. It's not like all of that money is disappearing. So I would still not say that if you have Tourist Trap, don't take a Book 2 mod that gives you quillings. I would even, again, say if you have Tourist Trap and your Book 2 mod is Will Thief, I would still take it, because you're still pretty much going to get the full cost. Well, it's going to get reduced, and then of course Tourist Trap's worth is going to be completely removed. But the reason why I take Will Thief is because it gives me almost as much income as the entire second half of the game. It is worse if you have extra sources of quilling income, be it Shadow Coin, if you have Pilfer. You're going to see, if you were to take an aggregate on Pilfer, you're going to see a notable top end difference. If you have Demolish, you're going to notice a notable top end difference. It's worse if you path towards more quilling cages. I didn't factor that into like here because of the fact that generally speaking in book 2 you shouldn't be headed towards quilling cages, or at least that's the general consensus at the top end of the game. If for whatever reason you're trying to get as much quillings as possible, yes, obviously you're going to skip Tourist Trap in the first place, but you will notice, again, a notable hit to the amount of quillings that you're going to get. Again, 25 isn't that much, but when you're losing, like, say, 20 quillings, okay, like, that's something significant. If you take Wit Thief as your Book 2 mod, it's worse. Again, worse doesn't mean that it's bad. It is the worst if you path towards extra carver nodes, though. So if you are a person who values heading towards carvers, yes, obviously this mod is a never pick for you, because negative 25 quillings isn't that bad. But if you, for say, hit a carver before your book 1 money pots, and you're going to take a 25% hit on that, then you go into the carver before the end of the book, first book, you're going to take another 25% hit, go into the boss, lose half your quillings on the book 2 money pot. At that point, this thing is absolutely, like, terrible. If you are at all a person who would path towards more carvers, I would probably not take this. Exception, of course, being if you take the last possible event node and go to the carver there, but you also can't always be assured that there's going to be a carver at the last event node of book 2. Because if you do it that way, you're only going to take the hit on the book 2 guardian, and I think that that's fine. But I also don't know, with the way that people are talking about it, if you're losing that much quillings, would you want to go to an extra carver, or would you rather just save for the end carver? That's for you to decide. Another thing to note is that with all sources of plus quillings, negative quillings, percent, these are additive. So you would still need quite a bit in order to offset Tourist Trap. But if you had, like, say, I don't know, 2 to 3 quilling catchers, it would offset this, and then you just get the 175, which is, I don't know, like, you just do this in reverse, right? Having 2 to 3 quilling catchers will earn you about 120 to 175, so it sort of offsets it. Just something to note, and the main reason why I'm willing to take it is it costs the same as the damage resist book mods, both the ones that enemies start with damage resist, so you have to shred it off, or as you attack them, they gain more damage resist. Like, those are quite possibly the worst mods in the game, as far as I'm concerned. Yes, you can offset it with damage multipliers because those are additive, but I also just would rather not have to deal with them, because the reason I have damage multipliers is to meet breakpoints, and enemies offsetting that is like the worst. Like, especially in multiplayer, you take stuff that gives DR per hit, and no one's going to be doing any damage. Especially if they have any sort of, like, challenge buffs that give them, like, say, plus 75% physical resist. Now you have a literally immune mob to physical damage. Or if you got the Burrower Worms and they're up at 4 stacks, they now have 90% damage resist. They're virtually undamageable. And I would just rather not deal with those mods. And so for the same, air quotes, pay, you get something that does not affect your combat at all. Now, of course, when you subtract the amount that it's going to cost you, it's generally going to give you about like 50 to 0 quillings. Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take negative, see, I budget for 100 per book mod. So taking half of that to have something that's literally not going to affect my gameplay, 100%. Sure, I might be able to not reroll the Elite Vault. I might not be able to buy a legendary vestige at the end of the game, right? The book 3 carver. But if you make it towards the end of the game, I would say probably about 80% of the time you're going to win because you had a build that was able to take out the book 3 Guardian and the chapter 3 elites. Anyways, hopefully that was short and sweet. It is more so a simpler topic. If you feel like I left anything out, if you feel like you have any other sort of feedback you want to put in towards the conversation, or any feedback just in general for the channel, questions, comments, concerns, misplay alerts, you got any ideas for other sit-down Saturdays, you can go ahead and put those down in the comments below. And until next time, I will catch you guys around.